Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. How is your week going so far? So far, mine has been pretty productive, working behind the scenes on some things, specifically Her Income Lab, which is coming at you on May 30th, 2026 at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The wait list is open. We'll be talking a little bit more about that in today's episode. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining. Let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. Today, we're going to be answering the question of why isn't my coaching offer converting? Today is Tuesday. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Today is Tuesday, and we talk strategy here on Nick at Noon. We are 6 weeks into this thing. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. All right. So we are right at the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and get into this thing. Here's the deal. Most coaching offers don't fail because the coach isn't skilled enough. Most coaching offers fail because the offer is not built to sell. And there's a difference between those two things that the coaching industry almost never talks about. At least they don't talk about it as transparently as I'm getting ready to talk about it, or as honestly as I'm getting ready to talk about it. Because talking about this particular aspect of your coaching business, it really requires admitting that a brilliant coach with a poorly built offer will consistently lose to a mediocre coach with a well built offer. And that conversation is uncomfortable, but it's true. And today I am going to talk all about it. Welcome back to Nick at Noon. My name is Nick Scott, and I'm the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit, an online education platform designed to help women turn their existing skills into sustainable coaching income without leaving their 9 to 5, without the hustle, the burnout, and the overwhelm. Today is Strategy Tuesday. And before we get into today's episode, I want to mention real quick that I am hosting a live workshop on May 30th. It is called Her Income Lab, and we will be building your coaching offer together live in real time. So if that's been something that's been on your to-do list, I want you to get on the wait list. The link for the wait list is down in the description, or you can visit my website at herincomeedit.com/workshop. Now, if you haven't already, I want you to go get your notebook and your pen. I want you to share this episode with your biz bestie. And if you have any questions or comments as we are moving along through the content, please drop them in the chat if you're watching live, or you can post them in the comments if you are watching the replay, and I will get to them because we are about to get into it. Today, we are talking about what separates a coaching offer that converts from one that doesn't. And before I get way deep into this, I need to be very, 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 very clear up front. And this is not a conversation about manipulation. This is not a conversation about persuasion tactics or how to pressure your audience or anybody into buying something that they don't need, because I am not about that life. This conversation, this one is about how to build something that is so aligned with what your ideal client is already looking for that when she finds it, the decision feels obvious to her. Because that is exactly what a great offer does. That is exactly what a great offer does. So before I talk about what makes an offer convert, I want to spend some time on what's at stake if you don't build an offer that converts. Because I think the urgency of this conversation, it gets lost when it stays theoretical. Like, I don't teach theory, y'all. So I want to make this concrete. So if you've been building a coaching business and your offer isn't converting, here's what that means in practice. Because maybe you're showing up consistently, maybe you're creating content, maybe you're having the conversations, and maybe you are doing the work, but your income is not reflecting your effort. And that gap between effort and income, that is one of the most demoralizing experiences in the early stages of building your coaching business, because it's easy to interpret it as a sign that the market doesn't want what you have. It's easy to interpret it as a sign that you're not good enough, or a sign that this whole thing was a mistake. But here's the thing about it: most of the time, that is not what that gap is telling you. Most of the time, the gap between effort and income, it's telling you something that is much more specific. And that specific thing is that your offer isn't built right. And here's what makes here's what that means for women who stay stuck in that gap without addressing the offer. They keep working harder at the wrong things. They keep creating more content. They keep trying different platforms. They keep tweaking their messaging endlessly without changing what's underneath the messaging. And the results, they consistently and continuously stay exactly where they are. Now, meanwhile, the clients who needed you, they're out there right now. The clients who need you, they're out there right now. They're searching for exactly what you provide, but they're trying other solutions that might not be well suited for their situation, or they're staying stuck in problems that you were built to solve. Because the offer you built, it didn't reach your target audience in a way that made the decision for them easy. I am at an age and stage in my life where I embrace ease, right? People ask me, Nick, why do you wear black all the time? Because it's easy. And let's be clear, the real cost of a poorly built offer, it's not just lost revenue. It's lost impact. It's lost relationships. It is lost proof that what you're building is real and valuable, and it's worth continuing. It is worth to keep going down this path. And for the woman who stays the same, who keeps doing what she's doing without addressing the offer, that cost, it compounds. So every month your offer doesn't convert, that is another month of evidence that maybe this isn't working. It is another month of your confidence eroding. It is another month of distance between the woman you're becoming and the woman that you are. And we talked specifically about that gap yesterday. So if you missed yesterday's live, the replay is available on my YouTube channel. And a poorly built offer, it's one of the things that widens that gap between the woman you're becoming and the woman you are. It widens that gap most consistently. But here's the good news. Here is the good news, because it ain't all doom and gloom. We don't do the low vibrational stuff over here. The good news is your offer is fixable. The good news is this isn't a skill or a talent problem. This is a construction problem, and construction problems have solutions. We are answering the question today, why isn't my coaching offer converting? Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Now, let me talk about what most coaches get wrong when they build their first offer, because the mistakes are very specific and they're consistent across almost every coaching business that I have seen in the early stages. So, if you haven't already been taking notes, this might be the place where you might want to start jotting some things down. So, the first mistake that I see consistently is building an offer around what you do instead of what your client gets. I'm going to generalize this just a little bit more, just widen this and broaden this just a little bit more, because oftentimes what new coaches do is they go into this business and they're very self focused. So they're not really thinking about their offer or their business, or even the skills that they offer in terms of what the client gets. The client is always going to be tuned into WIIFM, and that is what's in it for me. So this is very consistent with building your offer. It is this tendency to be focused on what I'm doing, what I want, what I would want my experience to be. So the very first mistake is building an offer around what you do instead of what your clients get. And there's nothing, and if that's what you're doing, you're not alone, because it's very normal. But this is the most common mistake, and the one that has the most downstream consequences. Because here's what building around what you do, here's what it sounds like. It sounds like in your description: 8 weeks of one on one coaching, 2 sessions per month, plus email support, access to my proprietary framework, and a resource library. We have weekly accountability check ins. And all of that is a description of a service, which is important to an extent, because it tells the potential client what she's buying. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't tell her why she should buy it. Like in marketing, in college, we spent a lot of time talking about features and benefits, right? So 8 weeks of one-on-one coaching, that's a feature. 2 sessions per month plus email support, that is a feature. Access to my proprietary framework and resource library, that is a feature. Weekly accountability check-ins, that is a feature. But what is the benefit? Why should I care? Your client, when I buy something, I'm tuned into WIIFM, what's in it for me. Your client, when she's coming across your sales page, when she's reading your description, she is tuned into WIIFM, what's in it for me. So those features, is it telling her? Is it describing to her? Is it tuned into WIIFM? Is it telling her what's in it for her? So, on the flip side, here's what building around your client, here's what building around what your client gets, here's what it sounds like. So, in 8 weeks, you go from burned out and unclear about what comes next to having a specific plan, the confidence to execute it, and your first steps already in motion. Do you hear the difference there? The first version, it describes the inputs, right? The features. The second version, it describes an outcome. And people don't buy inputs, particularly in this industry. What they buy outcomes. You've probably heard people say in this industry, they buy the transformation, right? They buy the outcome. WIIFM. What is in it for me? And that is not a small distinction. And I don't want to gloss over it or rush through it, because that right there, the fact that people don't buy inputs, that they buy outcomes, that right there is the entire offer. Because the moment you shift from describing what you do and all of the features and the inputs, the moment you shift from that to describing what your prospective client gets, the entire conversation changes. The entire conversation changes because your potential client will stop evaluating whether the service sounds reasonable, and she literally will start imagining what her life looks like after she's worked with you. And that imagination, that visualization, that is where the yes lives. Okay. So the first mistake is building an offer around what you do instead of what the client gets. Building an offer around what you do instead of what the client gets. That is the first mistake. So the second mistake is building an offer that's too broad to speak to anyone specifically. And we've talked about this in the niching conversation that we had last week. Again, if you missed that episode, the replay is available on my YouTube channel. But it just shows up differently in the offer than it does in the niche. Because what literally happens is a broad niche, it produces a broad offer, and a broad offer speaks to everybody, lottie-dottie and everybody in the abstract, but it doesn't speak to anyone specifically. So here's what a broad offer sounds like. It sounds like, I help women achieve success in their professional lives. I support high achievers who want to reach their full potential, or I work with women who are ready to take their careers to the next level. Now, let me ask you a question. It's not rhetorical. I want you to answer this either on your notes or you can just drop it in the chat or in the comment section. When you hear, I work with women who are ready to take their careers to the next level, who is that offer for? I work with women who are ready to take their careers to the next level. Who is that offer for? If you're honest, that offer it could be for anybody, right? And maybe you've heard, well, if you're speaking to everyone, you're really speaking to no one. That really applies to this industry, specifically in this day and time where everything is AI generated. We have to be very specific about who our offers are for and who we're speaking to. Because when an offer tries to speak to everyone, it ends up feeling generic to the individual who reads it. And generic offers don't convert because no one is going to see themselves clearly enough to say, yes, that is exactly what I need. Right? So that is the second mistake. And that is building an offer that is too broad to speak to anyone specifically. And then that first mistake, just to recap, that was building an offer around what you do instead of what your clients get. So, are you ready to get into this third mistake? If you are ready, drop ready in the chat. So, the third mistake is pricing your offer based on what feels safe rather than what reflects the real value. And we talked about this last Wednesday, but I want to connect it to the offer specifically because the price is part of the offer. The price is part of the offer. It's not just the 8 weeks of coaching and the weekly check-ins and the email support in between sessions. Your price is also part of the offer. It is not separate from it. So here is what a mispriced offer communicates. A price that's too low, it says that I don't fully believe this is worth more than this. And the potential clients, they pick up on that signal. So when you're pricing your offer at $500, at $1,000, at $1,500, you're low key articulating to your prospective clients that you don't believe your offer is worth more than this. And they pick up on that signal. And even when they don't consciously evaluate it, the price of your offer is a statement about the value of the transformation and the outcome that you deliver. And when the price doesn't match that transformation, your whole offer loses credibility. And it's not because your coaching isn't good, because your coaching is probably great, but it's because the price is telling a different story than the promise. Somebody dropped price in the chat. The price is telling a different story than the promise. Now, let me talk about what a coaching offer that converts is made of, because you probably tapped in today wanting to get an answer to the question of why isn't my coaching offer converting? So I want to talk about what a coaching offer that converts is made of, because we just spent a little bit of time talking about why your coaching offer isn't converting. It's, based on the pricing. It is based on an offer that's too broad. It's based on building something that's built around what you do instead of what the client gets. Right now, let's talk about what you should be doing. And I'm not going to be talking about the mechanics of how to build the offer, but I want to talk about the ingredients of it. And I want to go through the elements that need to be present for your offer to do what it's designed to do, and that is convert. Somebody drop convert in the chat. So, the first ingredient of a coaching offer that converts is a specific named client. I'm not talking about an avatar with a name and a backstory, although that is important work to do. But what I'm talking about here is a real, recognizable description of the person that your offer is designed for. And it needs to be specific enough that when the right person reads it, she feels like your offer, your description is speaking directly to her. It needs to be specific enough that when the wrong person reads it, that person knows that your offer isn't for her. Because both of those reactions and responses to reading your description, both of those responses and reactions are correct. Your offer is not supposed to be for everybody. It's supposed to be irresistible to the right person. And an irresistible offer, it requires specificity. So the second ingredient of a coaching offer that converts is a specific felt problem. A specific felt problem. And I don't want you to think about this as a category of challenge. I want you to think about this as a specific, concrete, this is what keeps my ideal client up at night problem. I'm talking about the kind of problem that when your prospective client reads your offer, it makes her feel like you've been reading her journal, like you are all up in her head. And here's the thing about felt problems, FELT problems versus theoretical problems. Theoretical problems are things people know they should address, right? They know they should address these things. But a felt problem, that is something that someone is experiencing right now and they want relief from it. They want relief from it. Think about it like having a splinter in your finger. right? You know it's there. Like if it's a small splinter, it's like, okay, I know it's there and I want it out like right away, right? So an offer built around a theoretical problem, it produces interest. But interest is not urgent. Interest is not commitment. Interest is exactly what it is. But an offer built around a felt problem, that produces urgency, that produces commitment. There's a difference between being interested in something and being committed to something. And commitment and urgency, that is what produces decisions. So the third ingredient of an offer that converts is a specific, believable outcome. And I'm not talking about the most dramatic transformation you could promise. I'm talking about an honest outcome and transformation. The kind of transformation that you can completely stand behind. The kind of transformation that when your client achieves it, she will attribute it directly to working with you. Because believability matters here just as much as specificity, because an outcome that sounds too good to be true produces skepticism rather than desire. And skepticism is the enemy of a yes. So your outcome and your transformation, it needs to be ambitious enough to be worth paying for, but it also needs to be grounded enough to be worth believing. And that balance is the art of creating your offer. So the fourth ingredient of an offer that converts is a clear investment and not a range. My offer, my services are between $500 and $1,500. So not a range, and it's not a starting price. My offer starts at $500. And it's not a let's talk about what your budget is on the call. So what is your budget, right? An offer that converts has a clear investment number, a specific number that you are able to name with confidence. So, we've talked about pricing confidence in previous episodes of Nick at Noon, but your offer is where that confidence starts to become visible because a confident price is part of what signals to a potential client that this is real. Your offer is worth it. And the person who's selling it, she knows what she has. So the fifth ingredient of an offer that converts is a clear next step. So what does your client do if she wants to work with you? What's the next step? If a client says yes, what's next? And it's not a vague, I'll get in touch or I'll follow up. I'm talking about specific calls to action here. Specific calls to action. Apply here. Book a call here. Join the wait list here. The next step, whatever the next step is, it needs to be easy and clear enough to take that the momentum of the yes, it doesn't get lost in friction and trying to find something. Because the fact is, when it comes to sales, the window between deciding yes and taking action is a lot shorter than most coaches realize. And if the next step isn't clear and if it's not immediate, that window closes. Right? So now I want to talk about something in the offer conversation that many coaches avoid or they just don't realize that it's important enough to be discussed. And that is tension. The fact is, a converting offer, it creates tension. And I'm not talking about manufactured tension or fake urgency that's designed to pressure somebody into buying. A converting offer, it creates real honest tension between where the potential client is right now and where she wants to be. And I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, right? And here's why tension matters, because without tension, there's no reason to act now. If the problem is tolerable, if the current situation is uncomfortable but survivable, the decision to invest in a solution, it gets pushed to later. And later almost means never. So let's go back to the splinter. So if the splinter is so small, right? Like I know I have a splinter in my finger. I know it's there, but I can tolerate it. And it's uncomfortable, but I can live with it. So I'm just going to move on about my life and let it work itself out, right? But if the splinter is such that it makes it so uncomfortable, so intolerable that I know that I can hardly type on my computer with it because now my finger is swollen and I can see where it might be starting to get infected. I need to make a decision now. And the same is true with a well-built offer. A well-built offer, it names the cost of staying the same. And it doesn't do it in a fear-mongering way. We have all seen it, right? We have all seen the fake urgency that is created, that has been created within this industry. I actually hired a coach a few years ago. I paid a premium for this coach, like a pretty handsome, over $20,000 to work with this coach. And this coach literally taught fake urgency in her curriculum. And at the time, I didn't realize what it was. I understood the psychology behind the urgency, but I didn't really align with creating this manufactured fear and urgency. So I'm not talking about building an offer and talking about the cost of staying the same by instilling fear into your prospective clients and into your audience. I want you to be honest about it. I want you to be upfront about it. I want you to create this tension in a way that helps your potential client see clearly what staying stuck is costing her, because that is important. And here's what that might look like, because here's what it's not. Let's talk about that first. Here's what it's not. It is not, if you don't take action right now, your life is going to fall apart. Nobody wants to be pressured into a sale. Nobody. So creating this honest tension, it looks more like every month you spend in a situation is a month you're not building the thing that gives you options. It sounds like every month you stay in a role that's burning you out is a month your health and your energy, you don't get that back. It sounds like every month you avoid building your offer is a month someone who needed you, they couldn't find you. And that is real tension. It is honest. And it respects the intelligence of the person who is reading it. It gives that person a reason to make a decision rather than putting it off. And here's the thing, the tension in a well-built offer, it's not about your urgency as the coach. It's about the client's stakes. So remember at the beginning, or maybe not the beginning, but at some point during this conversation, a little bit earlier, I talked about just when new coaches come into this industry, they're very focused on them, how they would want their offer to be, but they're not necessarily focused on the client. And this tension part of your offer is no different than that, because the tension isn't built around your urgency. And that's not to say that your urgency is not important, but your offer isn't built around that urgency. Your offer, a well built offer that converts, it is built around what's at stake for the client. We are providing a service. And because we provide a service, it means that we are here and we have chosen to serve people, to serve others, right? And when we can start to position ourselves and get in the mindset that we're of service to others, everything else will fall into place. And when you understand the stakes of staying the same, when your client understands the stakes of staying the same, calling them out in your offer, it is not manipulation. It is a service. Somebody drop service in the comments, because your clients, they deserve to know what inaction it costs them. They deserve to know that up front. They deserve to know that just as clearly as she understands what action produces. And here's what I've noticed about women when it comes to tension. They resist creating it in their offers because it feels uncomfortable. It can feel like pressure. It can feel like they're doing something to someone rather than for someone, right? We are providing a service here. We are servants. We are servers. So here's the reframe. When you name the cost of inaction, when you honestly name that cost, you're not creating pressure. What you're doing is you're providing more clarity. And clarity is truly one of the most respectful things that you can give someone who is trying to make a buying decision about whether to invest in her own growth. You're offering clarity. Your clients, they deserve to see the full picture. Would you agree with that? They don't just deserve the beautiful outcome on the other side, but they also deserve to know what it cost them to stay where she is. And an offer that gives your clients that full picture, it is one that serves her, whether or not she says yes. We are in the service industry. We're providing a service. Somebody drop service in the comments. Now, I want to make a connection before we close that I think is really important. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. The offer and the audience are not separate conversations. The offer and the audience are not separate conversations. They're the same conversations. And a lot of coaches think about building an audience first and then building an offer for that audience. And I'll admit there's some logic to that, but here's the problem with that sequence for women who are building from their skills. The problem is your audience isn't a passive group of followers who will eventually be ready to buy whatever it is that you build. That's not who your audience is. Your audience is an active community of people who are dealing with specific problems right now. And the offer is the thing that tells them whether or not you are the right person to help them solve those problems. So when your offer is clear, when your offer is specific, when your offer is grounded in a real felt problem, it will attract the right audience. And guess what it will also do? It will also repel the wrong people. That's what a well-built offer does. It attracts the right people and it repels the wrong one. And a clear and specific and grounded offer, it builds a community of people who aren't just interested in your content, but they're actively invested in the problem that you solve. So there's a difference between community and audience, and I can do a whole episode on that. So we will save that for another conversation. So the thing about community is that it's not built by growing a following. It's not built by growing a following. There's a difference between a community and an audience. Community is built by getting your offer right. And here's the tension that I want to talk about when it comes to staying the same. If you keep building your audience without getting your offer right, you're building a platform, you're building a group of people who will never convert. You are growing a following that isn't aligned with what you're selling. And every day, every week, every month that continues, the gap between your audience size and your income, it just gets wider. And it's not because the audience is bad, but it's because the offer isn't meeting them where they are. So getting your offer right isn't something you do after the audience is big enough. It's what you do before anything else, because your offer, it is the foundation of your business. What's the point of building an audience? Let me back up. You've made the decision that you want to be a coach, right? You have made the decision that you want to start to create options for yourself outside of one paycheck, outside of your 9 to 5. You've made that decision. You told yourself that I want to do it online with digital products, online courses, consulting, coaching, strategy sessions, all online, right? So you've made that decision. What logic does it make for you to then go build an audience second after you've made that decision? I decided I'm going to be a coach. Now I'm going to go build an audience. But you don't have anything to sell to them yet, right? So you're building this audience and you don't really have anything to sell. Well, after you've made the decision to get into this online space and use the internet to generate income, the logical second step is to create the thing that's going to make the income and then allow that thing to attract your audience. Your offer is the foundation, and everything you build, your content, your platform, your visibility, your reputation, your credibility, everything else is built on top of your offer. So after you've made the decision, I want you to build the foundation first. I want you to build it right. And then I promise you everything else will follow. I promise you everything else will follow. Now, I just want to spend a minute to talk about what I'm building for you on May 30th, because today's episode is a direct connection to exactly what I am building for you on May 30th. Her Income Lab is a live workshop where we will build your coaching offer together in real time. So you won't be listening or watching me explain how to build one. You won't be downloading a template and filling it in a silo by yourself. We're going to be building your offer together live. And the reason that that matters is because of everything that we talked about today, right? The specific the specific problem, the specific client, the believable transformation and outcome, the confident price, and the clear next step. The tension that makes your offer the obvious decision. And all of that, that's what we're going to be building on May 30th. So you're going to leave that workshop with offer in hand. You're not going to leave with an idea for an offer or a rough draft that you'll need to finish later. You're going to leave with a specific, complete, priced, ready to put in front of people offer that you built in real time with me. So registration isn't open yet, but the wait list is open. And the women who are on the wait list, they're first when the doors open. So click the link in the description, get on the wait list, or you can go to my website at herincomeedit.com/workshop and join me on May 30th for Her Income Lab. So here's the thing about all of this. Most coaching offers do not fail because the coach isn't skilled enough. They fail because the offer is not built to sell. And staying the same, keeping the offer as it is, continuing to build visibility without addressing the foundation, that is one of the most expensive decisions you can make. And it isn't just expensive financially, but it is an expense of your time. It is an expense in gaining momentum, and it's an expense in compounding the cost of clients who needed you, but they couldn't find you. But again, here is the beautiful good news about this: your offer is fixable. And it's fixable because we're not talking about a skill problem. We're not talking about an expertise problem. We're not talking about a talent problem. We're talking about a construction problem. And May 30th in Her Income Lab, that is where we're going to fix it. Okay? So I want you to come back tomorrow for Money Wednesday because I'm going to be talking about what consistent coaching income looks like in your first year. I'm going to be talking about real numbers, real timelines, not some imaginary made up fantasy, right? What does coaching income look like your first year? I want to thank each and every one of you who popped in on today's conversation. And we dug into why isn't my coaching offer converting? I am here Monday through Friday at noon Mountain Time. Nick at noon. Tomorrow is Money Making Wednesday. I will be here noon Mountain Time. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Turn your notifications on so you don't miss a beat. Her Income Lab waitlist is in the description, or you can visit my website at herincomeedit.com/workshop. And I will see y'all tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.